Chapter -9.9 Minnow and the Anger by Frank. After dinner, Jax asked if she could see Minnow and Sky privately. They told me about it later and asked me to include it in our story. Jax took both girls to her studio near the main observatory. It's decorated with icy things, but there are also images of molten lava and fire. It's so good. Minnow couldn't help shivering as she entered the room. "What's it like in the land of ice and fire?" she asked. "Cold," said Jax, and then she added with a grin, "and hot." They all laughed. "It's great," said Jax, "although there aren't many trees." Minnow looked sad. "I'd miss trees if I had to live there," she said. "I do miss them when I go home," said Jax, "especially now that I've come to love trees since being on the islands of time." Jax gestured to Minnow and Sky to sit down at a table she'd set up by the window. Outside they could see the indigo sea and hear people splashing about, even though it was getting dark. "I love it here," said Sky. "It's so calm." "I know," said Jax. "So good." Jax looked at Minnow and then added, "Except when Invictus is about." Minnow blushed. "I don't like him much," she said. Jax nodded. "It's fine to avoid people you don't get along with," she said, "but if you're going to play the time game, it's important not to be prone to anger." Minnow nodded. She told me later that she felt ashamed. Jax looked concerned. "This is not about making you feel any sense of shame," she said. "Believe me, I used to want to exterminate most of the people I met. I find it very hard to tolerate fools." Minnow looked down. "I know," she said, "but I should know better. I've seen what happened to Isla's ghastly heart." "Oh, gosh," said Jax, "that would never happen to you. Isla's been courting evil for centuries. You're only feeling a bit cross with a fellow student." Minnow grinned. "True," she said. "Blizzard and I thought we'd take you and Frank to the Black Pond," said Jax. "Frank too?" asked Minnow. "Same family," said Jax, "so you have similar tendencies." "What about Ben?" asked Sky. "Another time," said Jax. "For now it's important for Frank and Minnow." "When?" asked Minnow. "First thing," said Jax. "We've got lots to do, so we can't let anger hold us up." "First thing?" asked Minnow. "Just after sunrise," said Jax. Minnow opened her eyes wide. "Fantastic," she said. "On the cliffs," said Jax. "See you there." When Minnow told me, something about it felt right. I wasn't the angriest of people, and neither was Minnow, but since our encounter with the thieves, something had changed in us. We'd become much more distrustful of people, and we weren't very tolerant of anyone outside our close circle. "Of course I'll come," I said to Minnow, giving her a hug. "Oh, good," she said. "I thought you might be angry." "Why?" Because my grumpiness had caused you to be caught up in it." "Well, wouldn't that be all the more reason for me to need to go into the pond?" Minnow laughed. "Definitely." Chapter -9 Black Pond for Minnow and Frank by Frank. Minnow and I met Blizzard and Jax on the cliffs just after dawn. The indigo sea was so still, it looked like ice. The sun's rays on the purple surface made an incredible pattern as they reached towards us. "The reward for getting up early," said Blizzard, staring out at the horizon. "I love it," said Minnow. I could tell that she felt very special to be singled out by Jax and Blizzard. To tell the truth, we both did. "I thought if we went to the pond nice and early, we could have breakfast in the temple," said Blizzard. "What do you think?" "Perfect," said Minnow, her eyes beaming. "Darling's gone ahead," said Jax. "She wanted to bake bread for us." "She's so kind," I said. "We're very lucky," said Blizzard. We headed off with Blizzard and Jax, following the track by the cliffs. Listening to the ocean gulls made me feel happy. Their early morning squawks rose up above the slow lapping of the sea against the cliffs. As we started to head inland, the track narrowed and we began to pass ferns, moss and tall gum trees. "Do you think we have fish hook anger?" asked Minnow. "Not really," said Blizzard. "Why do you ask?" "Sky told us that she had it," said Minnow. "She said that's why she had to go into the Black Pond." "Ah," said Blizzard. "When the time virus was in full swing, poor Sky was harmed repeatedly by life, by the thieves, by evil. There was a good reason for her to have fishhook anger." "You've both had wonderful lives," said Jax. "Why would you have fishhook anger?" I felt confused. "Why are you taking us to the pond then?" "The time game," said Blizzard. "You want to be good at it?" "Of course," I said. "Good," said Blizzard. "Then how often do you find yourself feeling grumpy with other people?" While I was thinking about Blizzard's question, Minnow answered. "A lot," she said, "especially when the other person is Invictus." Blizzard laughed. "Invictus," he said. "He doesn't exactly know how to win friends and be nice to people, does he?" "Why doesn't he have to visit the Black Pond?" asked Minnow. Blizzard stopped and looked at both of us. "Invictus may never be invited to study the time game," he said. "We don't even know if he'll make it through his stay at Marescimar." Minnow and I felt as if we'd been rebuked by Blizzard, and it didn't feel nice. I looked down and said sorry. "There's no need to be sorry," said Blizzard. "None at all. I simply meant you're so much more fortunate than Invictus. He's not a happy person, and unfortunately there's not much we can do about it." "Except to keep him safe," said Jax. "Safe?" asked Minnow. "He's been in danger ever since the thieves were taken captive," said Jax. "His dad renounced any alliance with the thieves, but that's caused all sorts of trouble among the League of Criminals who know the thieves." I suddenly felt very sorry for Invictus. "Who brought him here?" I asked. "I did," said Blizzard. "Long story, and I'll tell you about it one day, but that day is not today." There was a flurry of feathers as two doves flew past. They reminded me of Six and Jem. I felt a burst of happiness remembering them, and then a strange splash of sadness to know that we wouldn't be seeing them again. "I've not been very trusting of anyone since the thieves came to Lowood," I said, "and even though I know that their influence has been undone, and we've lived an entire lifetime now without them, somehow their presence is still in my memory, and it isn't good." "I know how you feel," said Blizzard. "Knowing that they exist can still make me want to feel cross." "But you don't?" I asked. Blizzard smiled. "Not because I'm any better than you," he said, "but just because I want to be good at the time game." "You're competitive," said Minnow with a laugh. "He is," said Jax. Blizzard laughed. "What a terrible thing," he said. The sun was shining through the forest as Jax replied, "You just want your heart to be safe, and that won't happen if it's full of grumpiness about other people." "True," said Blizzard, smiling. As we walked along the track, the insect noises became so loud that they sounded a bit like an orchestra. I wondered if we should record them to make a soundtrack for parts of our computer game. The insects sounded so wild, and the noise was very, very good.